everybody. Thanks for coming to the talk, especially during lunch. So it's only a 20-minute talk, and then you can go eat something. So I'm just curious for everybody in the room, can you raise your hand if you actually manage the CI for your project or you've set it up? And all right, good bit of people, cool. So this talk, we're gonna move pretty fast. It's just gonna be a fun tips and tricks talk. And no matter what level you're at or exposure to CI, I think you'll probably learn something. My name is Ben Boral. I'm a solutions engineer at Bitrise. Bitrise is a fully managed mobile DevOps platform. Do things like provide CI for your projects, also release and distribution tools that are kind of, you need a specifically mobile tool for those kinds of things because it's different in the mobile world. And I've been working at Bitrise for 4 years, so I've accumulated a nice little library of some tips and tricks that I like to share. So let's dive into it. And the first one that we have to get out of the way is AI because, it's 2024. And so something that you can do, if you haven't thought of it already, like in my opinion, I like AI for summarizing. I like AI for sort of reviewing things that already exist. And so we put together a step for Bitrise that just pushes your PR through ChatGPT, and it can comment directly in to your PR. So that's kind of a fun one, and you can tune the prompt if you're looking for a specific type of feedback. The next one is about speed. So you're probably going to go to some Gradle build talks today, and they're going to tell you to modularize your app. And the reason why they're telling you that is because Gradle is smart enough to distribute the tasks it's running across all of the available cores. And so CPU cores on your machine. And so you can see here, I'm building Signal, the open source messaging app. I'm building Signal, and I'm doing that on a 4-core Linux machine and a 16-core. And you can see there that the 16-core crunches through that build in about a third of the time. And so if you have a properly modularized build graph, then it can really take advantage of a bigger machine. Okay. Surprisingly, take a look at those build times. So running on Intel Linux versus ARM Apple Silicon, get some really fast build times on that M1 and M1 Max machine. This you can say like, okay, well, why don't I just build on ARM Linux? Right now, not supported. There's a issue tracker with Google, and hopefully it's coming, but until now it hasn't been supported. But this is just a link to a blog post that we put out showing that with the more recent versions of Java running on that Apple Silicon can get really speedy results. Okay, next, your CI tool may have an annotation feature, which is kind of fun. So you can see there in Bitrise, this is my annotation, this little info block here, and I could post whatever info I wanted to that. And so sometimes it might be useful to, I don't know, maybe post your test coverage or something like that onto the build. Any sort of additional information associated with that build that you don't get by default. An example of that would be, we're going to take a moment. An example of that would be actually publishing, like I said, the CPU core utilization on a build. So this will take just a minute to get started, but what I've done is wrote a little shell script that just checks the CPU utilization on each core, and then it's going to actually publish that as an annotation to my build. And importantly, it's going to update that every few seconds. And so I can kind of watch that as it's running. And this can be especially helpful if you're trying to like diagnose weird hanging builds or any sort of anomalous behavior. So we can see that publishing up to my annotation. All right, next one you're probably going to hear quite a bit about at the conference, which is to use a build cache. So, Gradle has different ways that it can cache work and then reuse that. And one of those is a build cache. So every task has a set of inputs and an output, and you can generate a fingerprint from those inputs and then save that output associated with the fingerprint. The next time you run a build, if for a given task, the fingerprint remains the same, then you just reuse that and avoid some compilation work. So Bitrise has a managed build cache, but you can also self-host. They provide a jar and a Docker image for free that you can self-host yourself. Gradle does. And you can see it in a project which is architected to take advantage of the build cache. You can make quite an improvement on the build times. All right, if you start using a build cache, then one of the things you're going to want to look at is the critical path. So Gradle creates this graph of tasks that it needs to execute. And so they're going to go right in the order of dependencies. There are going to be many of these, but this is the critical path. And everything is great, right? We're getting all of these up to date, so they're happening super quickly. But then we hit that first executed task. And so that task took 20 seconds. What if I could find a way to get a cache hit on that task? Then I would eliminate 20 seconds off of my build. And in this case, it might be hard to see, but the reason why that task was not cacheable is that some file changed. And actually, the real root cause on this is I never set that signing config file or whatever with my Android key store. I never set it. So it was probably just creating one in the temp directory, and it was different every time, right? So if I just set that file, then it's going to be consistent. I'm going to get a cache hit. My build's going to be 20 seconds faster. Another thing that's kind of fun, if your CI tool supports it, is to publish an HTML file. So this might be useful if you want to provide some information to your testers, something like that. So you can just publish a interactive HTML file directly to your build. And a little bit more of a practical example would be, take a minute, would be a report on your app size. So there's a pretty cool library, Gradle plugin, I think it's a Gradle plugin. I haven't looked at it in a little while, called Ruler. It's from Spotify. Is anybody familiar with that? Yeah, so publishes a nice report of the size of your app and sort of where the components are coming from. So if you find that your APK is getting too large, you can generate, it's relatively rudimentary, but you can get a rough idea of where the pieces of the app are contributing to that bloat. I think the insights page is pretty cool. So for example, here, most of it is coming from actual code, a little bit from resources, but maybe you have some unoptimized image files that are taking up a bunch of space. Okay, so talked a little bit about modularizing your app. So one of the things that you can do is there's a really handy library called GraphAssert, also a Gradle plugin. And you can see I'm running the assert max height Gradle task here. And what it's doing is it's creating the graph of my project, and it's going to fail my build if it exceeds some height value. I think I set max height to 4. So I think this one is a failure. So if we go down here and we find the failure somewhere in here, Signal Android is allowed to have a maximum height of 2, but it has 3. This is a good way just to enforce a very horizontal architecture and not too tall. And you can also visualize that graph. So here we'll go over, and these are all of the Gradle modules within that Signal project. Okay, another thing you can do, right, is you can use a managed service like Bitrise or Circle CI, GitHub Actions, whatever, and we all create a sort of standard virtual machine image that has all of the commonly needed Android developer tools on them. But if you need to customize, you have a couple of options. One of them is whenever your job starts, you could install all of those tools, but that would waste time. Your developers are waiting for feedback. So you can just create a custom Docker image, and that's what I've done with this build, even though it's not super obvious. Another thing that you can do is whenever you're building those Android, that Docker image that you want to customize, the Docker file build process, it goes in layers. Here's the Docker file. Oh, that's really little, but you can see some of those, each of those commands is a layer, and so you can cache each layer incrementally. And we're doing that here in the Docker build step where I say, okay, yeah, I want to use the Bitrise key value cache to save off each of those layers. And then the next time that I do that build process, I don't have to rebuild every layer. I can just start from the last one that changed. Start from the last one that changed. Okay, so next thing is run local builds. So let's bump this up a little bit. And let's go to, oh, it's an iOS sample at an Android conference, gross. So I've committed my YAML file that defines all of my CI pipelines to my repo. It's available locally. Now let's say I need to, I want to make some changes to it. I want to experiment with some changes to it. So depending on the CI tool that you use, there might be a CLI that you can actually install on your local machine and actually run builds directly. So here I could say like, okay, first I want to validate that my YAML is syntactically correct, and it is. Okay, so I want to see what workflows I have defined there. Oh, cool, I've got one called my new workflow. So then I can say Bitrise run my new workflow. And that's actually going to run the build locally, and I can just sort of iterate on that much more quickly than you've probably been in a situation where you like make a change to your YAML, you push it up to your remote, and then it's like, why isn't my build running? And it's because there's some syntax error in the YAML. So speed up the iteration cycles there. Oops. Okay, another thing to look out for with your CI tool is sometimes whenever you're debugging a CI failure, it would be a lot easier to actually SSH into the box. And so I think many CI tools will provide this, Bitrise does. So here you can click rebuild with remote access, and then Bitrise provides you a tunnel that you can SSH into there. And maybe it's like you need to check some file is present on the file system or something like that. It allows you to more quickly debug your problem. Next thing, so this is like if you're a tester and you're testing some new feature, right, on some branch, and you want to be able to see, you want to compare like the previous one to the new one, or you just want to get the latest one, publish all your artifacts to a nice browsable page. And so that's what we're seeing here. And you can also do something really convenient. This is available in Bitrise. Fastlane has a tool for this. You can create an over-the-air install page. So, you know, back pre-COVID, whenever we were in the office, designer needed to look at a build, they would come over to the developer's desk and actually plug their phone in to get that build. But that's not that great. So generate an install page and just allow people to self-serve those builds and install them on their own devices. And then you can also publish those links to the install page directly into your PR, or maybe to a Slack channel, or any way to just fully automate the process of getting that test build into the hands of whoever needs to see it. Okay, hopefully most people are doing this because it sucks to have to log into the Google Play console and remember what button to click. It seems like it's always changing, and it's always scary because you're afraid you're gonna click the wrong button. But you know, automate the act of publishing directly into the stores. So Google Play has a nice REST API. You can even take this a step further. You could monitor your crash reporting tool and update the rollout percentages automatically. So like if you're within your SLOs, just keep bumping up that phased rollout. Or if you breach an SLO, halt the release right there. So Google Play gives us a really nice REST API where you can really automate all aspects of the release process now. And number 20, but it's not the last one, is to keep track of your tests, your test execution. So you can see here, I've got all of my tests, and I'm selecting the flaky test tab. And I'm actually going to go here to my test cases, and I'm going to sort based on flaky rate. So I'm defining flakiness as a particular test case succeeds or fails, like it does both. It has a different result for the same commit hash. So if it changes its result for the same commit hash, I treat that as a flaky test. And now if I've got a little bit of time for tech debt on a sprint, then I can look at my test execution history over time and say, you know, test rand 124 under 2 is my flakiest test. It's causing my developers to have to rerun the pipeline, wasting a huge amount of time. That's the worst offender. So I want to fix that. And the very last thing is use Bitrise. Okay, so I've got some coupon codes that are good for like a year of use on Bitrise on one of our usage tiers. It's like pretty generous coupon code. So if you're interested in giving it a try, come talk to me. And yeah, love to get people using Bitrise. And of course you can hit me up afterwards and you're like, hey, I tried to run it on Bitrise and I have this question. So yeah, that is 20 nuggets in 20 minutes, 1 minute over. I hope you learned something. And now go enjoy lunch.